attorney.
And now, the official injury law firm partner of the Denver Broncos.
Ramos Law. What makes us different makes us better.
Hey there, my friends. I have a good treat for you this afternoon as our storm moves in here. One of the things that I am excited about with Peaks to Plains weather is the opportunity to do some long-form, sort of in-depth weather. And joining me now is a good friend of mine. His name is Tom Magnuson. Tom, thanks for joining me this afternoon.
Well, it's my pleasure, and congratulations on your launch of Peaks to Plains weather.
Well, thank you very much. It's, interesting time how, journeys in life go. My wife and I are going to be empty nesters in 2026. And so for a lot of different reasons, it was time for me to evolve and to do this. And, how people look for information and whatnot is changing. So somebody that was a TV guy back in the day and then a long-time Weather Service employee here in Southern Colorado, if you've seen it over the first few days, what have you thought?
Very good. I like the format. I like long formats because, when you're doing weather on TV, as you know, you only got a certain amount of time, unless you got a lot of weather hits like you did have in the morning. So it's really, really nice to just sit down and talk about it and drill down a little bit into the details of it. So I enjoy this. I know back in the day when I was doing weather on TV in the 80s and early 90s, there was no internet. There was no social media. So weather on TV was super important because really it was one of the only ways that people could get weather. And like you said, things have evolved now. You have social media, you've got the internet, and this long form format I think is pretty cool.
Yeah, and it may not be for everybody, but one of the things I'm doing is I'm doing longer form live video stuff like this, but then I'm, putting traditional shorter type articles on my website, shorter, video-based forecasts in my app on the website. And images and that sort of thing on social media. So that's kind of what I find fascinating about the digital space is it's, different platforms require different sort of information for people, and it's energizing for me and fun.
Yeah, one of the things I always like to do is not only deliver the forecast, but also just tell people the why of weather, the how of weather through these short educational pieces. And there were times when I was on TV where we had an entire hour and I had 4 or 5 hits in an hour, similar to what you had.
Sure.
And it made me happy that I could do that to educate the folks out there.
Yeah, and I've enjoyed over the last couple of days leading up into this storm being able to, do a little bit of that because I'm like, I can do 5 minutes right now. If I want. And, let's jump into the weather a little bit and then we can chat a little bit more because people are joining us here on social media. Melissa says it's snowing pretty good in Falcon right now. And so, Tom, we've had this first wave move through here. Some of these bursts that I was expecting in the afternoon, kind of shooting through the Springs metro already.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting the way the storm is evolving. It's going to be interesting to see what happens and, how the pattern shifts and which way the snow is going to be moving in. This one's kind of a quick hitter right now. Right. But it'll be interesting tonight to see how this whole thing sets up over the area.
I think one of the things I've learned over the years is, people, they just want to know if we had the ability to tell them, like, what is it going to be when I go out my front door and my drive to work or school or whatever it is. But I think there is a lack of appreciation with where we live here and how storms are evolving as they move from the mountains into the Great Plains, how razor thin and sort of, like 20, 30 miles makes such an important difference in these things around here.
Yeah, it's I forecast the weather in Illinois, Wisconsin, Indiana. I come out here and I go, whoa. I mean, this is a totally different ball game out here.
Right.
I mean, you got to learn stuff. As a forecaster, when I first came out here, it was like you got to spend a whole year or two to try to figure out what's going on and just learn from the people around you. So
Right.
it is difficult to forecast out here. Um, I've seen in situations like this with storms like this where a snow band will set up. It might be 5 miles wide and it'll
Hmm.
just sit there. And you'll get several inches of snow in that band. And then on either side, it's like, where's my snow?
Right. And it's kind of doing that in Falcon right now. That burst is
Right.
moving over town. You can see, the cars. I mean, it's sticking to the road for sure. Out at the Meadow Lake Airport, it's reporting heavy snow right now. And that is one of those bands that are moving through, like you said.
Yeah. So tonight, it looks like the show is going to really blossom up here. So it'll be interesting. Now, it seems like we got things pretty well. I always say pretty well figured out, but there's always wrinkles. I mean, you're never going to be totally right anywhere in southern
Right.
Colorado.
Yep.
When you get down to the granular details. So, the broad brush, the pattern recognition, like you've been doing the last couple of days with more snow across the Palmer Divide and the Raton Ridge, and then the mountains just to the west of Colorado Springs and Pueblo. Those will be hit hardest. But
Right.
there's so many little nuances I've learned over the years from just a slight change in wind direction to the terrain, how that affects how much snow one area gets.
Yeah, you and I've talked about that in the past, like for people specifically that live in the mountainous communities and up certain draws or on the certain face of a mountain, like they know a lot better than us a lot of times if the wind's coming from a certain direction that they end up getting more or less than they tend to see from the broadcast folks or in the weather service, because the stuff in the little mountain areas is so micro scale.
Right. And that was something I appreciated when I looked on your graphic earlier today. Was you got some snow totals out there across Raton Ridge and to the west of the I-25 corridor, and then I looked at the Cuchara Valley. I mean, you hit them hard, and they usually get hit hard in the Cuchara Valley.
Yep.
12 to 18 inches. You get a north-northeast wind there. It's upslope. You got a lot of forcing in the atmosphere, and they just get hammered there. One of the things that I loved about my job was I got to travel all across southern Colorado and talk to folks, talk to emergency managers, politicians, just the folks, do the weather spotter training. And I got to go to all these areas and just kind of look and see how complicated it really was.
Right. That's one of the things over the years when I was working in TV and new people would come in, I would say, get in the car the first few months and try to drive around the area because
definitely.
It is so varied and you do get an appreciation for how much of a challenge it really is. And I want to let people know, like what you said about here being difficult that is true, because I still will go to national weather conferences and people will be like, why are you still there doing that to yourself? Because it's such a challenge. I mean, it really is.
It is. It's, you go around and just a minor example here. There's a 600 to 700 foot elevation rise from Lamar to Springfield because of the Raton Ridge. And that can make a really big difference in snow totals from those two cities. And of course, the Los Animas County is actually higher than, the Arkansas River Valley.
Right.
So they're gonna get hammered with upslope when there's a north wind. So I always encourage our forecasters to do that too, to get out and just travel the county warning area. And there were a few of them that didn't do it, and it was like I've never been there before. And I said, well, you got to go out there.
You got to go,
just
right?
See how difficult this is.
Yeah. So let's tell people, I don't know if we did that already or not. You were a longtime warning coordination meteorologist at the National Weather Service office here in Pueblo. So you were sort of that public liaison for the office, which made sense given your TV experience in Indiana.
Right. When I first joined the Weather Service in Indiana, my supervisor said, "You're going to be a good WCM." warning coordination meteorologist. And that's really what I strive to get to. So within a few years, I hopped around the country, probably 3 or 4 years.
Okay.
And then I settled here in Pueblo, and I said, that's it.
Right.
This is where I want to be.
Fun
'Cause it's so
weather,
chill.
great place to live, 300 days of sunshine supposedly, and lots of people come here, lots of military people will come here. They'll be stationed here at some point in their career, and they're like, that's where we got to go when we
They
retire.
always slingshot back when they
Yeah.
retire. A lot of them do. So
Yeah.
it's a great place to live. I wouldn't want to. I wouldn't want to live anywhere but southern Colorado and Colorado Springs. I've been here 30 years now.
Yeah. And, one of the, I think, reasons, especially with a storm like this, is a good example. You can get a good storm. One of our secrets on the Front Range is that stuff's gone in 2 or 3 days. It's not like the Midwest where, it snows
Right.
and then it's on the ground for 3 months. So we still get these really nice days this time of year.
Yeah, yeah. So it goes by, it melts, but the challenges are obvious. I mean, with this one, the first piece just rocketed out into the high plains today, and now the second piece is coming in, the colder piece of it. And
Right.
this is the tough part, how this evolves and,
Right.
and where it's going to end up, where the snow is going to be.
Right. And you can see here on this, the sort of wide satellite, the first wave you're talking about, it's over Omaha now. And the black lines around Prescott, Arizona, that's the second piece that's going to move to the east overnight. And this is always the question, right? Like, how far north or south is this? How tight
Right.
is the circulation? And it's the
And
same challenges.
Just the shape of the circulation too. No storm is ever the same from a storm before.
Right.
I mean, there's subtle little things about it. And when I was looking at the models this morning, of the deterministic models, I noticed, it really started to hammer the Colorado Springs area early this morning with the new model runs. And I was noticing that there was a flow from east to west in El Paso County up to the Rampart Range. It wasn't very strong, but it happened all night long. It will happen all night long.
Right.
So that's the kind of pattern on the west side of El Paso County, where you can get a whole lot more snow west of I-25 than you do east of I-25.
Yep.
So that's
And let's show that real quick, because that was, what I kind of do behind the scenes is I pick the model that I think has the best handle on it. And then
Sure.
I'll do some hand contouring, like I'll take one of the darker colors and I'll hand draw something that I think does a little bit, maybe fills in somewhere else off of experience. But this is the European model right here. And it
Sure.
was picking up on what you said, and it has that exact sort of bullseye right where the terrain starts going up.
Yeah, and I was noticing too, even on the GFS, the American model, and the HER, the rapid refresh
Yep.
model, and the 3-kilometer NAM, was all doing a bullseye in western El Paso County and eastern Teller County. So that forecast that you got right there makes a lot of sense.
Right. Now we'll see if it's, how good it is or not. But one of the things that I always think is fun is with a storm like this that's, going to be pretty widespread, is taking the reports after the fact, putting them on this map and reporting back to people. And, what you usually find is within your contours. So like in this example, my 7 to 12, most of the reports that you get in there will probably be in that range. There'll be one that's maybe just outside of it on the high end, and you'll get one on the low end or a couple on the low end. But that could be for a number of factors. How the person measured snow, like did they go find the biggest pile they could because they were excited? Or did they wait too long to measure it, and did you start to get compacting and that sort of thing? So, forecasting snow is hard, but measuring it is just as much of a challenge.
Measuring is not easy. Folks don't understand that. And one of the things, of course, when I started out in my weather career, I was a weather observer for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And in the Weather Service, what you do is you measure the snow every hour.
Right.
Then you wipe it off the snowboard, you do the water content, And then the next hour, you do the snow again. You get the water equivalent. Of course, when I retired, I'm not staying up all night doing that, and nobody does that. So when it's daytime, I mean, I do that, and I tend to have higher amounts than people around me just because I do that.
Right.
Because I don't just let it sit there and compact.
Right.
So, yeah, you're right. Snow is a difficult thing to measure. But,
I mean, imagine, like, just think about what he just said. Put that in perspective, right? If we can't even agree on how much fell after the fact, of course it's hard to forecast how much is going to fall, so.
right.
Anyways.
We had as you might recall, last year, we had a really big snowstorm in November. I mean, just unusual for November.
Yep.
And at my house, I had 27 inches of snow with that storm. And I measured it every hour because a lot of it fell during the day. And then, of course, I went to bed and woke up the next morning. But I measured 27 inches. And in the morning, it had compacted at 20. So
That's crazy.
It's quite dramatic. Yeah.
Yep.
It's like you said, it's not easy. People measure snow differently. They say, "No, you weren't right." But hey,
That's right.
those are the territories.
Right. We're just trying to give you an idea, right? Here you see, the wet mountains southwest of Pueblo. This is a situation they usually do pretty good too, down around Rye, Beulah, there on the northeast slopes of the wets. I've got them in a 12 to 18. That probably is pretty safe, I think.
Do you have the Cuchara Valley graphic? By
Yeah,
any
let me
chance?
pull that up here. That is, so let me add that in there. Go find it. Man, one of the things, like in launching this business, you don't have everything where you want it. Like when you launch,
Right.
Takes a while to kind of build up
Right.
your graphic suite, if you
Sure.
say. But yeah, I mean, models are hammering down there, down north of the Spanish Peaks
for
pretty
good
good.
reason. For good reason. When you get a north to northeast flow up the Cuchara Valley, I mean, there's mountains on either side, and that air just gets pinched and goes up, and you get some phenomenal totals there sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible that 12 to 18 is low,
Yeah, there could be more.
Yeah. But again, you get the
So
idea how
trying to give
go
you,
ahead.
just trying to give the folks a little flavor for how hard this is,
Right.
just to do for one storm.
Right. I mean, it's hard enough if you're in a flat place, right? Like, it's hard
Exactly.
enough in Iowa or something, but yeah, you throw it in here, and it certainly is different. One of the things that I thought was interesting, Tom, with this one, let me see if I can pull that up on my south of Highway 50, is off to the south, along the Raton Mesa. Over the last, I would say, 36 hours, this area has been getting a little bit hotter, that we call, in terms of snow on the north side of that circulation, with a lot of this, I think, falling tomorrow morning.
Right. So you're getting good atmospheric forcing, plus you're getting upslope too. So
Right, because
that
we'll have
makes
that
total
north wind.
sense.
Yeah.
Total sense.
So we'll see what happens. I want to share some of the folks that have been giving us some info here on social media, and I'll go back to the radar and we can talk about this little burst that's gone through this afternoon. I think this is fun. If you think back, Tom, to your days of TV, and I mean, even when, 5-6 years ago in TV, to be able to pull up stuff from people this quick, like this
That's
non-linearly, is really fun.
Yeah. To get ground truth right away from
Yeah,
the
that's-
folks. And it makes total sense. I saw a few lightning flashes down there in Fountain about an hour ago too.
Yeah, in fact,
that
I
was-
have a comment. Let me see if I can find it. Someone did say they were getting some
Yeah, there's a few
real small
strikes.
hail and some strikes down there.
Yeah, that was cloud to ground lightning too.
Yeah.
So I'm sure people were surprised when that happened.
Yeah, there you go. Wanda says at 2:30 she had grapple, thunder, and then snow. And hey, look at that. She's paying attention. She knows about grapple.
She knows about grapple. There you
Right.
go.
What is one of the things that you've observed over your time here in southern Colorado that you see in a storm and you would see at the Weather Service office from those of us that, obviously I did TV before Peaks to Plains weather, that as people came and went, you found was something that got missed or not talked about enough?
Yeah, the real just the no two storms are the same, and terrain rules. That's a definite thing right there, and so you really got to pay attention to the wind flow. How's it going against the terrain? How long it's going to be against the terrain? How quickly it rises up the terrain to cause the snow amounts in these types of storms. And then, of course, the infamous donut hole, too.
Right.
It's a struggle between the atmospheric forcing and the downslope, and you never know exactly how it's going to turn out. But you do know that there's probably going to be a cutoff in northern El Paso County where it snowed pretty good up to the county line, and then it shut off pretty quick, and then it starts up again south of Pueblo and Walsenburg. So those are some of the things when people first come in. You really got to teach them about that. The other thing I've noticed over the years too is I don't know if we've ever been able to forecast wind events very well. I mean, we know when a wind event is a possibility,
right?
But there's so many factors that go into bringing those jet stream winds down to the ground. Sometimes it's a total bust and it doesn't happen. Sometimes it really hits hard, and it's like, where did that come from?
Right.
And it all has to do with the structure of the atmosphere. I guess what I would call the layers, as the temperature goes up.
Right, the temperature profile is really, really important to help accelerate that down. In fact, I think that happened earlier this week. I don't remember if it was Monday or Tuesday, but a wave set up, and it didn't really look like it was a great setup for it. And then I woke up and was like, whoa, well, there it is.
Yeah, I know. And I was a little ticked off with that, I'll tell you honestly, because I had some patio furniture out in the backyard, and my patio furniture kind of moved around a little bit, did a little bit of damage in the backyard. So it's like, really?
Right.
But, I've come to expect that. It's just it's hard to forecast those downslopey winds and those downslope windstorms. And
it is.
I found over the years that in my neighborhood on the southwest side of town, with a pretty strong jet flow from the west southwest, we're going to get a windstorm, and even up to Air Force Academy. But if the wind is from the west northwest, oftentimes it skips over us. So I've learned a few things about that, but still it's very difficult to do those high wind events. And since we're in a La Nina winter, we're going to get a lot of wind this winter, I think. Yeah. And it's going to be interesting to try to forecast that wind.
Right.
We have a pretty good idea of the general pattern, but sometimes it throws us a curveball with that.
Oh yeah, I've had my share where it's like, oh yeah, we're going to get one and nothing, and then vice versa. But it's part of the gig here. I mean, really, it is that challenging. Mountain weather and mountain meteorology is a lot different than places that don't have the terrain changes over these really short distances. And we're like, let's put a city right on the side of a 14er. Good idea.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. One thing I am a big fan of, and I mean, I retired 8 years ago, so it's been quite a long time. But during that time period, and even now, I do like probability forecasting for snow, where you say, like today, in my neighborhood, you've got like I'm right on the 7 to 12 edge, and it's like, okay, today there's 100% chance I'm going to get 2 or more inches of snow.
Right.
Okay. And then you go, okay, how about 6 inches? Well, maybe there's a 60% chance that will happen in the neighborhood. And then you go to 10 inches, and it's maybe a 40% chance. When you go through the models.
Yep.
So it gives the folks kind of a probabilistic look at what might happen, and I think that's one of the reasons why we have broad ranges of snow amounts, is just because there is that uncertainty in the area, all over the area, really. Sure. And the snow bands could set up, bursts of snow could occur in one area and not in another. So you got 3 to 7 there. I mean, it's not like, we don't know what's going on. It's like, yeah, there really could be 3 inches in one
Right.
area and 7 inches
Right.
in another.
Yeah, and that's one of
We
the
get-
things, I should get my head wrapped around. Like in doing TV, there sort of wasn't enough time to jump into the probabilistic a lot because it
Sure.
takes a little bit more walking through. And there's some probability that's built into a map like this, which is why there's a
Right.
range.
Right.
But since I do have time, I should probably think about ways to communicate that I haven't necessarily had an opportunity to
Yeah,
do
maybe
before.
maybe just in one area, and just focus on one area or
break
two
it down.
areas, and just go, okay, here's a probability forecast. It's a little harder for the folks to understand that at first,
Right.
but it gives a feel for what we're up against, because there is uncertainty even if we think we get a storm pegged. It's always going to go wrong somewhere. That was the thing I always said in the office. I said, I wonder where we're going to be wrong with this storm.
Right. And then in the middle of it, you get to see,
Yeah,
where
Yeah, I
you're
know.
wrong. So,
I know. And I think one of the other things too with a storm, with all storms, so we only had 2 this year. The other thing is when the storm is winding down. I found over the years it's hard to let go of those alerts, those advisories and warnings. They tend to linger a little bit longer
Right.
than
right.
I would like to see them. At least when I was a warning coordination meteorologist, I was the manager of those programs, and I was like, okay, we can get rid of this now. Okay,
Right.
it's pretty obvious that this storm is over. So
Right. And like let's talk about those since you brought them up here. What we've got with this one from our friends at the Weather Service office, winter
Sure.
storm warnings they actually put southern El Paso County into it. I think more for the foothills,
Yeah, the
west
western
of the
part of it,
interstate. Yeah.
yeah. And the thing is with the zones, that we work with, which we actually developed those in 2001. We did the best we could because we had to think of different weather scenarios
Right.
for the area. So we knocked off the top third of El Paso because that's where you get more snow typically, and then the bottom was where you get less snow. But you can't figure in when you get an east wind. You're going to get more snow in Broadmoor Bluffs. You're going to get less snow to the east. So there was trade-offs in doing those zones,
Right.
and they're not perfect. So you got to take that into account. So you're absolutely right. I think the El Paso County zones there, it's more for I-25 and west.
Right. And so I just drew on here. I don't know if you can see it, but this is
Yeah, I
sort
can
of how
see
the
it.
zones go. And so
Right.
this whole southern zone down here, you either have to turn it all on or turn it all off. And so because
Right.
of the snow potential back here on the southeast slopes of Pikes Peak is why they fired it up.
I think, in hindsight, now this is 24 years ago, of course, when this happened. In hindsight, we probably could have done another zone for eastern El Paso County
Sure.
to further split that up.
Right.
But in hindsight, it never happened. So,
Right. So you're saying
That's- it is what it-
meteorologically, it almost makes more sense, something like this, maybe.
right. And then you notice that the Boulder County, Lincoln County over there has a winter weather advisory,
Right.
which butts up to our winter storm warning.
Right.
Which, if you know the inside baseball, you know that makes sense. I mean,
Right.
it's just the way the zones are drawn.
Right.
So,
So what Tom is talking about here is I'm going to sort of draw maybe the area that the Pueblo County office is responsible for, something like
Right.
this back in here. And then
Right.
so southern Lincoln County and Elbert County up into Delbert County or Douglas County is the Boulder office. So you do sometimes get
Right.
things that look maybe mismatched or whatnot because of that.
yeah, back in more inside baseball here. Back in 1995, when the Pueblo office opened, and then we were determining the zones, the forecast zones. There was talk that we would take extreme southern Elbert County there, south of Lyman, and that we would take the southern half of Lincoln County, Pueblo would.
Yeah.
But for some reason, that fell by the wayside. And that's exactly what we
Like
were
right along
thinking
24. Yeah.
25 years ago.
Yep.
It didn't happen for various reasons. And it's interesting. I tell people here's a fun fact for the Pueblo office. The Pueblo radar is on the extreme northeast corner of Pueblo County, okay? And within 5 miles of our radar is another office, another county, which is Boulder's responsibility,
Right.
which is weird.
It is weird. But, when you start having geographic lines that human beings have drawn, political boundaries, the weather is not aware of that, and it doesn't know that. So it's...
No, and we never wanted to split up counties in the plains, split them in half or whatever. I guess that was one of the decisions. So it is weird. But folks, who hear this should be aware of that.
Right.
There is a little peculiarity in the southern El Paso County zone.
Yeah. Well, what else should we talk about here? I love having your expertise from the weather service perspective. And, we've always had a special connection because you have that TV thing that we share. I don't know. I think we are doppelgangers actually, because I think a lot like you think. I like to educate the folks. I like to drill down, and this long format is great for you. I like to drill down and just explain things a little more. Mm-hmm. Like you say, it's not for everybody. Right. It may be for the weather nerds, but it's not for everybody. But of course, me a meteorologist, you a meteorologist, we enjoy talking about these things, and hopefully people get something out of it. Well, we've got 350 people on just I can't see Instagram, but okay. I have 2 live feeds going on YouTube right now. I've got one going on Facebook and one going on Instagram, and there's 350 people watching right now. So thanks to everybody for doing that.
Yeah, really.
We appreciate that. So it's interesting,
And it's the middle of the afternoon.
Right. Nobody's got jobs. What is this? This is ridiculous. Oh, Tom, it's been good to have you, my man. You're welcome on here anytime. I love your expertise, and I am a fan of you and your wife, and you're good people. And so anytime I can be in your orbit, I'm all about it.
Good. I really appreciate it. I enjoy sharing some of this stuff because I don't have an outlet for it anymore usually, but I appreciate the opportunity to do this. It's my pleasure to be here today.
Yeah, thanks for it. I appreciate it, and we'll do it more again because that's what this is all about. It's not a schedule of, hey, we're going to be on at 5 and then 6 or whatever the corporate America thing is. Like when the weather's happening, I'm going to be on covering it because that's, I think, in today's day and age, what people expect.
Yeah, I know. Well, the thing is, when you're on TV and you're on a 30-minute show and you tease the weather at the beginning, you say, I'll give you all the details in 15 minutes. It's like, I can go to other places and find out right now.
Yeah, I'll refrain my comments. But things change, right? Like I've observed that over the last 15 years that, it's, things changed for newspapers, things changed for radio, and things are changing for traditional television. Not that, people are still consuming video. They're just not doing it on these, original platforms, let's call them, because there are different options nowadays.
Right. So, yeah. It's just a whole different world. And I think it's a good thing, if people can glom onto it and expect that they're going to get an in-depth look at the weather, and they'll play-by-play of the storm too. So
right. Well, like I said, thanks for doing this with me today. It was fun. I was excited to see that you were interested in doing it, and truly, my friend, you're welcome anytime. I would love it.
Okay. I usually don't get up at 6:30 in the morning, but if I do, I just may pop into the office and
there you go. Jump on
and push the button.
shoot me a text, let me know. And I mean, that link I gave you is going to be good for the foreseeable future until I mess something up and accidentally delete it, and then I'll probably have to give you another one.
Okay.
So,
Very
all right,
good.
Tom. Well, thanks for taking time today. I appreciate
All
it.
right. We'll
Okay.
see how this thing goes.
Yeah,
Right.
we will. We always get to see after the fact. Like you said, what did we mess up? What did we do good?
Right.
So I'll see you next time, my friend.
All right. Thanks.
Okay. Thanks, Tom. All right, let's jump into the forecast here, and I'll do a little bit of it because Tom and I, we started talking about some really fun, interesting things, and I showed a couple of different, kind of while we were talking about it, how the storm's playing out. But while I have you all on here, let's go ahead and we'll check out what's happening across the area. We had that first sort of burst that moved through with some of the thunder that some of you let me know about. That's moving out across eastern El Paso County now. We're kind of in between the two main waves with this storm, but we're unstable enough. It looks like we've got another thunderstorm here that's kind of rolled across I-25 just to the north of Highway 160 outside of Walsenburg. That one's probably putting down some small hail, maybe some graupel like we had across the Fountain area earlier today. And as I widen the view here, you can see that we've had some showers continuing out east, and then you see all of the action around Grand Junction. That's associated with the second wave that is really going to be the main player here as we head into tonight. And you can see that first wave, as Tom and I were talking about, moving just to the south of Omaha right now, the circulation with that, the nice comma head that you like to see with those storms. And then we have this second system back here to the southwest, rotating across Arizona early this afternoon, or I guess it's the late part of the afternoon now. And that's the one that is going to move to the east overnight tonight. And as it does so, we've been talking about this for about the last 3 or 4 days now, talking about the circulation with it. It does look like it is going to develop a circulation over northern New Mexico at some point early on Friday morning. And that gets that northeast wind going that Tom was talking about. That's important as that sort of interacts with the terrain. But at the same time, what happens at the surface as that system gets east of the mountains in the mid and upper levels of the atmosphere, it develops strong wind at the surface here over the plains with another front coming in behind it. And that ends up creating the donut hole that we were talking about and that you see in the computer models here in terms of our forecasted snow amounts. So that's why you see just east of Pueblo, out toward Ordway, you see lower snow amounts than up across the Raton Mesa off to the south there, because that is where the model sees the upslope at the surface. It's also closer to that circulation in the mid-levels of the atmosphere, so you have some large-scale lift happening down here, but that north wind is pushing into the Raton Mesa and giving it lift. So that's a good combination down here, and the computer model's been picking up on 7 to 12 inches of snow, which that's what I forecasted. I think that's pretty realistic here. And you see those couple bullseyes on the terrain down here with a northeast wind at the surface for a time, and that circulation moving to the south, probably giving some areas a little bit more than some others. But the Raton Mesa, which runs east, kind of across Douglas, northern El Paso, and Elbert County out to the east, and separates the South Platte River Valley in northeast Colorado from the Arkansas River Valley in southern Colorado, that thing sinks a couple thousand feet when you move from the spine of the Palmer Divide, where it's highest, off to the east of I-25 down to the Arkansas River. And so while you may have some lift on top of that, at the surface, the sinking air is kind of counteracting that. And so that makes it fun, as you heard Tom and I kind of talking about, trying to figure out. Notice how the eastern mountains are going to do better than some of the ski resorts with this one, just due to the proximity of this second system down here in our area and being a little bit closer to some of the large scale lift with that. So I'm not really changing my forecast here for what I showed this morning. This is the same map that I showed this morning, and we'll drill down now to some of the smaller scale areas because, again, I have time to do it. That's one of the things that I think is pretty fun here that I have the opportunity to do in this longer format. And so if we go ahead and zoom into some different areas for you, I'll zoom into the Pikes Peak region. where in a generality, except for kind of around Pikes Peak and along the Rampart Range, I think we're looking at a solid 3 to 7 inches of snow. But with that circulation moving through and in the mid-levels of the atmosphere on the north side of it, getting that east to west flow that Tom was talking about and taking advantage of the upslope, there will be some areas, especially where the hills start going up there, where we are on the higher side of things, and possibly up to a foot for somebody. It's not out of the realm of possibility. When I do these ranges, especially if it's a sort of a smaller area, like you see this 7 to 12, I'm most confident that we'll probably be in the middle of that range. But I've got to give some wiggle room, as you heard Tom and I talking about, due to some of the terrain differences, some of the sort of aspects of the terrain, like the northeastern slopes of Pikes Peak, just to the west and south of Highway 24. There could be some areas that get more than a foot. I wouldn't be surprised about that by any way. I do think as you move across El Paso County off to the southeast, you're probably going to be on the lower end of that 3 to 7 inch range. You see, by the time we get to Hanover, I've got it in a 1 to 3 there. But for a good chunk of the Colorado Springs metro area, thinking 3 to 7 inches looks like a pretty solid bet here. And then once we get the north wind to develop tomorrow morning, we'll start to shut things off for the middle of the city, in the south end of the city, and probably keep some snow showers going up across northern El Paso County for a few extra hours early in the morning. But the storm will start to get out of here in the afternoon. As I said this morning when I was doing an update, Pueblo is one of the, I think, harder areas to figure out with this storm, because it's, and some models show this, that the bands early tomorrow morning on the north side of the circulation, a couple models show Pueblo getting hit by that for a little bit. And if that happens, we'll, probably end up with 3 to 5 inches. One of the other challenges is we're lower in elevation here. This is not a particularly cold storm for January. So I think we're more susceptible to the melting, once it falls, the compacting that Tom and I talked about. So it's possible we're on the low end of this. More may fall than you end up kind of measuring. And to be honest, Pueblo is the area that I'm sort of that I have the least confidence in myself with this storm. And then you see back here, I think Fremont County is going to do pretty good. I think a general 3 to 7, and then you get some of the higher terrain spots. This is one of those situations, Guffey, sometimes when there is a north wind, does a little bit better than I expect. So there's a person there in Guffey that's given me quite a few reports over the last 3 or 4 years, and sometimes they get more than I expect, so I put them in a higher area. And then the wet mountains, I think, are going to do pretty good, right up against them. Fairview, Beulah, Rye, you guys could get more than a foot. Wouldn't be shocked by that at all. The wet mountains will end up kind of shadowing Westcliff a little bit, but you'll still get a solid 3 to 7. Before I end the live stream here, talk about early next week, this cold air mass that will have us in the single digits and teens to start off our weekend. And as we clear out Friday night with snow, will be pretty cold. We'll use some of the sun's energy to melt off the snow. So we'll kind of creep up some on Sunday, and then we get into early next week, and I think we end up back into the 50s. And so I'll show you the forecast here for Colorado Springs early next week. Decent days again by the time we get sort of Monday and Tuesday. There, we're back into the 50s. So that's it this afternoon. It was fun talking to Tom. It was awesome having him around. I love being able to do that. We'll do that with you here too later on this evening as the storm kind of starts cranking up. I'll have some of you give me reports. You'll be able to use the link like Tom did to join me here on Peaks to Plains Weather, and that'll be a fun thing. We'll zoom in on the radar and we'll use the radar estimated snow. We'll see how it's doing compared to what you have in your area. But there's no reason this afternoon to change my thought a lot from what I talked about last night or this morning, until we, see what actually happens with the system. But expect travel conditions to deteriorate tonight. Obviously, it's kind of fun talking about how much snow we're going to get, but the impacts are something that obviously is one of the most important things. Because sometimes you can get a storm that meteorologically isn't all that exciting, but produces big impacts. I mean, sometimes we get these little, half-inch snows that come with a big, quick drop in temperature with a strong cold front, and you'll get this little skiff of snow that melts on the roads and then freezes, and that can be a huge impact, obviously. But I do expect the snow to start sticking here for the roads that haven't seen that as of yet. You know, we've had these bursts where the snow's already sticking this afternoon. Wind will start to pick up into Friday morning. We'll see some improvement as we head through the day on Friday, and the storm starts to move off to the east, but things kind of lining up how we thought they would. So thanks for joining me here this afternoon. It's been fun to have you, and I'll have more updates here on social media, peakstoplainsweather.com, the Peaks to Plains weather app. So many of you have downloaded that. Thanks for doing it. If you want to here, you can go to peakstoplainsweather.com, and you can search that and download the app there. Just a reminder to you to keep the location on. That helps me to be able to give you a digital door knock when something is coming your way, and something that I value trying to serve my community here in southern Colorado. So we'll see you next time on Peaks to Plains Weather.